Welcome to the NRL Punters Weekly Digest NRL Team Lists edition for round 2 of the 2021 NRL season. I'm your host, Ben Hetherington. If you're watching for the very first time, or if you just haven't had a chance to subscribe yet, please give me a cheeky little subscribe and please turn on your notifications so you can stay in the loop of all my latest content. Also, if you do like this video, please give me a like. It really helps. I appreciate all of your support and I'm really trying to get the NRL gospel out to the world. And the more likes I can get, the more the algorithms do their thing and the more people see my content. So all your support is really appreciated. If you're on Twitter and you'd like to follow my charming little rugby league musings, I am at NRL Punters WD. And if you'd like to listen to the full version of my weekly podcast, you can look me up on your favorite podcast platform at NRL Punters Weekly Digest. Let's get into it. Now, if you followed my tips from last week, you would have tipped 7 of 8. I only dropped one game. And in fact, I even tipped the margin in the Raiders-Tigers game of 18 points. So if you put a cheeky little $5 on that one, then you might have got yourself a little payday. So I guess what I'm trying to say is like, whilst I don't know everything, maybe listen to a little bit of what I say. Kind of know what I'm talking about. All right, Thursday night sees the Parramatta Eels take on the Melbourne Storm, and they are at Bankwest Stadium, the home of the Parramatta Eels. Just one change for the Parramatta Eels in that clash, with Marata Niukore returning from his 2-game suspension that he incurred during last year's qualifying final, coincidentally against the Storm. Niukore's return pushes Keegan Hicgrave to the reserves. And for the Storm, they're completely unchanged. Why would you change them? They were great last week. My tip in this game is Melbourne by 24. Based on what I saw of Parramatta last week, if they can't put two halves of football together, I think Melbourne are going to really do them. Friday night game sees the Warriors take on the Newcastle Knights at their new spiritual home of Central Coast Stadium. Adam Pompey replaces Ewan Aitken for the Warriors. Now, Ewan Aitken looks to be out for 3 to 4 months with that horrific ankle injury. We wish him a speedy recovery. Knights are unchanged. And in fact, Bradman Best returns for the Knights. It looked like he might be out this week, but he's okay to go. Gold Coast Titans is our other versus the Brisbane Broncos is our other Friday night game, and that is coming to you from Cbus Super Stadium. Local derby, always a much anticipated clash every time that they go around. Big brother versus little brother, although it's hard to say who's the big brother these days because Brisbane just really aren't aiming up as the powerhouse club that they should. For the Titans, Philip Sami replaces Brian Kelly, who's out with a fractured hand. TBA on when he's going to return. Xavier Coates and John Asiata, who looked to possibly be a scratching in this match, are going to be okay to play. Matt Lodge, however, is not okay to play. He is replaced with Thomas Flegler. He'll be out with a hammy injury for 2 to 3 weeks. And Reece Kennedy makes his way onto the Broncos bench. My tip in this game is the Broncos by 2 points in a tight affair. Our first Saturday game is from Bank West Stadium, where the Canterbury Bulldogs take on the Penrith Panthers. Jeremy Marshall-King returns for the Bulldogs in this clash, and he takes Brad Dietz's bench spot, with Coradell coming into onto the bench and Raymond Fatala Mariner promoted to the starting side. That exuberant Panthers side from last week is completely unchanged because, again, why would you change what's working? They look fantastic. Panthers by 30 in this clash. I think it's going to be a whitewash. The next Saturday game is from Lottoland, where the hapless Manly Seagulls take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. South Sydney really looking to bounce back after last week's loss, where they could have won that game against the Storm. They were their worst enemies. For Manly, Andrew Davey has been promoted to the starting side, with Jack Kosciuszko taking his spot on the bench, and Cade Cust and Sean Keppie make their way onto the bench for the Seagulls. Josh Mansour and Jacob Host have been punted by Souths, not from the whole team, but just from playing this week, following a bad performance last week. They are replaced by Jackson Polo and Keon Kulamantangi. And then Patrick Mago forces his way onto the bench for his first appearance for the Bunnies this year. My tip in this match is South by 24. From Queensland Country Bank Stadium, we have North Queensland Cowboys at St. George Illawarra Dragons at 7:35 p.m. Cowboys are unchanged despite the temptation for Todd Payten to make some wholesale changes following last week's performance where they didn't even score a point. Conversely, the Dragons welcome back Corey Norman from suspension. He takes Adam Clune's spot in the halves to partner Ben Hunt, but otherwise the Dragons are unchanged. And I've got the Dragons winning this one by 10 because they made a little bit of a comeback last week in the second half. So I think based on how both sides are travelling, they've got it over the Cowboys. On Sunday, the West Tigers take on the Sydney Roosters from Campbelltown. Adam Dewey returns for the Tigers, which is going to be a huge boost for them. They need all the support they can get. That pushes Moses Mbai to the bench with Russell Packer returning to the reserves. Lots of changes for the Roosters. We have Freddie Lussick replacing captain Jake Friend at hooker. Now, Jake Friend is out for an undetermined amount of time with his HIA concerns. The Roosters over previous years have had a bit of a history of having their finger on the pulse when it comes to managing HIA, concussion injuries. Boyd Cordner, Luke Keary. So we don't know how long he's out for. Nate Butcher takes Angus Crichton's spot in the starting side. Obviously, Angus Crichton is out with a one-game suspension. And Drew Hutchinson and Fletcher Baker find themselves on the bench for the Roosters. I had the Roosters winning this one by a landslide. 20 points, even with those players out. I think they're just going to be far too good for the Tigers. And then our last game of the round sees the Cronulla Sharks take on the Canberra Raiders at their home at Nestrata Jubilee Stadium. Still feels weird saying that. I'm just used to Oakey Jubilee, but Nestrata Jubilee Stadium. For the Canberra Raiders, no changes. No changes from their side. They came out of last week's game unscathed, so very good news for the Raiders there. And for the Sharks, Mawene Hiroti replaces Jesse Ramian, who's suspended. He'll take his centre spot. I have Raiders winning that clash by 14 points. And that's it for this week's edition of NRL Team Lists. Again, if you haven't given me a subscribe yet, please do so. Turn on your notifications and give me a like, and I'll see you next week.